In this video today, guys, we are installing a 10 by 28 accent tile, floor to ceiling, wall to wall in the bathroom. At first glance, you might think, oh, Jeff, that's going to be an easy project, right? Yeah, you just start at the bottom and you go to the top. The trick is, when you're doing a tile project like this, you have a few things to consider. One is the size of the tile, because you don't want your tile going full from the floor and then having a little sliver at the top. Because this is a lot more noticeable than down here. Right? Because you're gonna have a vanity, we're gonna have a tub and all these things going on. So you wanna make sure that when you're doing a tile project like this, first thing you do is you measure from the floor to the ceiling. You get your number, okay? In our case, it's 80 inches. And then you go to the tile store with that number in mind, and you find a tile that'll stack with a grout line to that measurement. Okay? Do yourself a favor. This is the biggest key that no one ever does. They go to the store, they fall in love, oh, I like that one, let's make that work in the room. And then you run into nothing but challenges. So in my case, my tile is 10 inches with a spacer, okay? So I'm gonna be fine. And now I have a little variance here because of the room. So my plan is to add a trim molding after the fact to cover any gaps that might appear. So I have a trim molding up here. I'm gonna get the same thing, duplicate it down here, and it's gonna solve my problem. Now, that's the height issue taken care of. The next issue is this. 28. Well, 28 is a really interesting tile, okay? So you get a grout line there, you get one here. And then, you're gonna get one here. And then, look at that, I have 31 inches left. That's a challenge. I don't want a 3-inch piece of tile. So, I can't just start on one wall or the other. Or one end is going to have a 3-inch sliver. Now it's not terrible over here if I had a 3-inch sliver, because this tile is only 23 and it could look like it's wrapping the corner, but let's just face it, that is not a sexy look, okay? So what I want to do instead is I want to take a look at this grout line, and instead of that being the end of a tile, what if that's the center of my tile? Okay, so I go 14 to 28. Here's my new lines. 28 from here, takes me to about here. That's a nice big piece, okay? And then over here, we'll do the same thing and you'll see what happens. That's a nice big piece, okay? No slivers. Truth is, it's gonna take more stone. I need more tiles to do this because I can't use the offcut to finish a wall. So I'm gonna have a little bit of waste, but because we're using that same tile in the whole shower, I don't mind, because I've got all kinds of little walls here that I can take all those offcuts and make valuable use of them. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this our center line. So this will be our first grout line. We're gonna go floor to ceiling. We're gonna stack it, rack it, and pack it. We're gonna install this bad boy. We're gonna show you some tips and tricks because wall is not straight, but the tile needs to be, okay? So what I'm gonna do is get into this. We're gonna mix up some cement, show you how to make your thin sip, show you the tools you need to apply, how to cut, how to work around your electrical plugs, and how to keep your wall tile flat even when you can't use spacers. Sorry, we can use spacers, we can't use leveling clips because of the detail of this particular tile, okay? I can't use the clips with the wedge system on this stone. It's not gonna work, all right? I'm just gonna create new problems. So instead, we're gonna have to have a different way to find out where the dips and valleys in this wall are. And that's not always easy. So this is gonna be my center line, okay? But that's the center, not the center line. It's the center of the tile. So we're gonna measure off of this, and we'll call this our center line. And I can drop a laser, so I know where to start. I wanna just take this measurement to the wall, 42 inches minus my tile, which is 27.5. And then I also have to add a grout line, 3/8, 27, and we'll give ourselves a little bit of mercy, 27 even. That's gonna be my cut. So what I do is I drop a laser line and I check the measurement all along the wall. So here I'm at exactly 2 inches. And from the same position over here, I start going up a little bit to 2 1/4, 2 1/8, which means that is the high side, okay? So we want to start installing at the high side and then maintain a level line across the room. That's why we did the measurement from this grout line. Okay, we'll start with the short piece, and then this tile. We're going to use a combination of 3 different spacers in order to build our support underneath, and then finish that with a siliconized caulk that's designed for expansion joints. Okay, and that's how we finish. So it doesn't have to look perfect. We don't need to be scribing tile and cutting the little thin 1/16 of a line out of it. It's better to have a little bit of a gap growing than try to cut all the tiles to fit the space. So always start from the high side, not the low side. In most scenarios, there's not going to be that dramatic of a difference. It's necessary to scribe the tile in. But if it is necessary to scribe, then start at the low side and, you know, enjoy that ride. Okay, here we are. Now, just to get started, we'll just talk about this. I'm going to be using a little level on me. I'm going to be relying on this laser a lot. First of all, let's get this line on here, because that was the basis of our measurement for our end tile. This is where my first tile starts. We're going to get this on the wall. We're not going to worry about how perfect this particular tile is installed right now. Okay. Expose our line and let it work. There it is. Okay. All right. We're using 1/4 inch by 3/8 trowel. Okay. And we're going to be using directional troweling techniques. And whenever you're putting a horizontal tile on a wall, go straight up and down with your trowel. And I'll explain to you the benefit of that in just a second. Now, because we're putting that much cement on the wall, and these tiles are relatively large, and I checked, and the walls are generally sort of smooth. They're not bad. Not a wet area. We're just going to back butter, just for good measure. Here we go. Okay. Okay. We're going to collapse those ridges. Find my pencil mark here. There it is. There's my line. And for now, I'm going to use that wedge just to hold it in place. We're going to wait until I run out and grab a cut. Now you see, this is part of the drywall. It's where it's tapered off. So you're not going to get the greatest bond with your cement here, okay? Which is why when you're troweling, you want to trowel over that area. It'll build it up higher so it stays consistent with each side. All right? Let's take a look and see what kind of bond we have here. Oh yeah, fabulous contact. So we got great contact across the top, not across the bottom. Those lines didn't get collapsed. So we're going to give it a good push. Make sure we get a better bond. Clean as you go. Never have tile installed on tile. These wedges have a really thin edge. You can just stick a 32nd of an inch. But if it's a gap, it can move independently without putting pressure on each other. Now, one of the benefits of working on your own home is that you're going to take time to make sure everything is square. I built this wall, and it's perfectly square. So that means if I'm installing my tile level on a square wall, every measurement all the way up that wall is exactly the same. And that means I can go right out to the saw right now and cut 8 of those exactly the same size. Okay, what I'm using here is a dry erase marker. It's not perfect, but it'll work okay. Every time, eh? Wow. The dry erase marker doesn't wash off when you're cutting, but it wipes off when you're finished. So consider using that for your next tile job. Makes a great line. This saw is a great little tool, right? Let's just face it, the blade doesn't sit exactly square to the table, so it's difficult to freehand it. Hi-yi-yi-yi-yi. All right. There we go. 7 more to go. That's going to be perfect. Again, 1/32 of an inch off the floor. And we're going to have a nice little 1/8 gap here. That'll be plenty. Okay? Now, the way we check to see if everything here is level is you want to get a horizontal line on something metal. Like in another room. Here we go. I can slide this down until I hit the top of my tile line. There we go. And then I can make minor adjustments. And as you can see, it's perfect here. And it's a little low here. Okay? So instead of going plastic to plastic, just grab these. This little baggie of wedges are fabulous. They're made of rubber. Okay? And they stick really good. So I'm going to stick a wedge on that and see how that one works out. Now that is much more perfect. Okay, so that's how we're going to use it to draw our line all across the room. This is going to work out really good. All right, so when you're doing stacked tile, you got 2 options. You can do the whole row, 1 row at a time, or you can do a whole stack. If you do a whole stack and you've got a vertical laser line, then it's much easier to know if you're square on your next row. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Actually, intentionally, I'm going to start and go 3 or 4 high right here so that I know if I'm square. Okay. And it's taking me about there. There we go. All right. It's going to be necessary here the same way. Just closing that gap. Now I have a gap open here. I already know that that corner is low. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to lift this up to that where that line is just hitting the top of that, and I'm going to lay that plastic in there. Now these have got little steps on them, so they operate really well at keeping things level. Before we go to the next tile, let me show you. This is the finger trick. Okay, you want to keep this thin set out of your grout joint as much as possible. All right, we're going to use our fingers to protect the tile, chip the glaze, and we're going to lift it up on purpose. Okay. Gravity is your friend here. It's going to want to slide down the wall. Now we're using 1/8 spacers. Line up there, and then we'll push down. Now these are not plastic. These are the rubber kind. Okay. Get everything just perfect. Because of the texture, Sweet. By the way, all of this stuff on the tile, this is just here for safety in the shipping process. If you have a big chunk, knock that off before you add your thin set on the back. Oh, I hate when that happens. Ah, yuck. Okay, we'll deal with that in a second. All right. Try to resist the need for using any kind of metal tool when you're working with tile. Okay. And get that line perfect. Every little while, take a minute, clean your tools. If your tools are clean, you'll stay clean. And thin set tends to set up really quickly. And if it sets up on your tools too quick and you're not cleaning it up, soon you'll not have a tool worth using. All right, here we go. This is a concern. As this gets a little thick, it gets harder and harder to get a nice bond, right? Remember what I said? If the cement's sitting there too long, it skins over. It won't bond to the next tile. So, you gotta recomb the entire area. Don't be chippy at the edges. All right. As the installer, it's up to you to make sure that all of your corners are good. That's where most of the damage occurs in ceramic. It's the glaze at the corner that gets compromised. So before you install it, you have to make sure that everything you build is perfect. Tiling is the one trade with the least amount of mercy, because all the mistakes are in the finished product. Here's how we do this. Okay. We're going to put that right where my spacing is perfect here. And I'm going to mark right where the hole is, because you always want to cut on your mark, not on either side of it. And then I'm going to go here where my space is perfect. And I'm going to cut right here on this plate, because that hole is where the screw goes in to mount the box. All right, and so I want to get that mark here. Sorry, right there. Okay, and then I'm going to use a square to bring that line over and translate it, and then cut that out with the grinder. That's how the tile gets installed. Okay, so the next tile has the same cut line. I can measure all of this right here, right now. So I'm going to go here to here. I'm going to 3 3/4. It's a perfect size. So that's at 2, and it's 3 3/4. So I measure from there 3 3/4. There's the top and the bottom of my box. Okay. And because there's a plate, there's a little bit of mercy here. It's my box. All right, I can cut both of these pieces at the same time. That's only one trip out to the grinder. Okay. Let me show you a little trick here, because it is really difficult to do good directional troweling around a scenario like this. Okay? So when you reverse your system, you can back butter the wall and then do your directional troweling on your tile. It has the exact same result The difference is, in this scenario, I can control how much cement is in each surface. Much better. Okay? That's back buttered. Lovely. Now, if you try to directional trowel on this, you'll end up with way too much thin set in a small space, because you're going to have the angle wrong. So you're either going to put way too much or not enough. Keep everything consistent. Thin layer back butter, 45-degree angle directional troweling. Keep that consistent and your whole job will be consistent. All right, so the process when you're tiling is you get it on, let it dry 6 hours. Usually that means overnight, and that's fine. Then you pull out all these little rubber pieces, okay? And as you pull, the little piece gets thinner and pops right out. Should be no issue. Just use your hands. If you have to use a tool of some sort, a small pair of pliers, okay? And just grab the edge. Try to avoid getting the metal up against the glaze. That's where you'll have issues. Then you can come along with a wet sponge and you can wash all this. These are all water-based blobs of whatever goo they're using here to protect it. Any thin set will also wash off, all right? And you can use your sponge and get into your grout lines if you need to clean out any extra thin set. It's always better to keep it clean as you go so you don't have a lot of cleaning to do. But, you know, eventually, sooner or later, you're going to find something somewhere. So you want to wash all that out before you do your grout work, because thin set, even if it's white, is not the same color white as your grout. And it'll sit there like a little gray blob. All right, well, we just got to dry fit this now and make sure that I didn't screw it up. It's perfect. Okay, now, like I said, we're going to go directional troweling on this. Okay. And we're going to try to set it in so it's somewhat clean. And away we go. We're set. Start a little high and get our rubber things here. Here we go. Now I push it down. Okay, so something is going on where this tile is higher than this tile, just by a hair. All right, this is a really great opportunity to have a problem, because we get to learn from problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our wedges, which start out the same thickness as the spacers, but go to 0. Okay, and I'm going to replace this with a rubber wedge, both sides, and get that tile in line. This is the time to do it. The first few feet are great opportunities to make sure everything is level. Once you get up in front of eye level, anywhere after 4 feet, everybody who walks in the room is going to see that the tile is out of alignment. And you know what? Even when you work with a laser, it's hard to make things perfect, because you have to be 2 inches off the ground to see if something is perfect at 2 inches off the ground. So this is why we're constantly adjusting. That's why I make 2 full rows and then use the laser to double check, because the laser and your ability to read that mark might be wrong, but the tile never lies. If it ain't perfect, trust me, it just ain't perfect. There's your job to make it that way. Here we go. Okay. Well, I'm feeling much better about this now. All right. All right. Okay. There we go. That's nice and consistent. Clean up down here. Here's my line. I collapse the ridges left to right. So I start right on the tile. I press because I'm a little thick here, and then I collapse going to the side. Now I can use my hands, make that adjustment, force that corner in under some pressure. There we go. Nice. Hop, 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 hop. See this? Maybe one more. That's a little glazed corner that chipped. That doesn't look like much right now. But if I grout this place, that corner is going to be red. Never getting rid of that. This is reject. Unacceptable. I hadn't even pressed on that. That's pretty good coverage. Hey? All right. Let's get that thin set. Let's put this right in the garbage pile. All right, that smells good. It's gonna happen, guys, when you're doing tiling. The bigger the tile, the more waste you need. This is something nobody ever talks about. The industry says, you know, you should have about 10% extra when you order. That can run you into some trouble for the following reasons. A lot of times, one of the boxes that they ship you will have breakage. There'll be like 6 or 8 tiles in a row, the corner chipped off, all right? And that's so common that they don't even count that as damaged tile. You can't call them up and say, I need to replace this box, right? That's a lot of effort. And by then you're what? You're across town, you're in the middle of your project. What you do is you take your boxes and you move them into the house. And if you hear crunching noises, you got broken tile. That's it. It's up to you. And if you left the store with broken tile, you know it because you carried it into your car. Now, after it leaves the store, they assume it's your fault. So here's the plan. Every tile job has got offcuts. It's got places where you're going to be cutting the tile shorter. Figure that out. Mark that box. Set it somewhere for use on XYZ space. Okay? Like if I had a box that had all broken corners, which I did, we use that box to make all of these. Because the other third is of no use to me, right? Here we go. So, like I said, the bigger the tile, the more tile you're going to need. Because if you have damage on a tile, it covers 4 square feet. If you have a bunch of little tiles and one little tile has got a damage to it, who cares, right? It's like 6 square inches. But when you have a 2 by 2 foot tile going on the floor and it has a bad corner, you can't install that whole tile. Nothing you can do to save that. So do yourself a favor. Depending on how convenient it is for you to get replacements, you might want to even go up to 20% extra material. Or map it out, how many tile pieces you need based on where in the room you're starting and what the offcuts are, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm getting 3 pieces of tile here and 2 pieces of tile over there. That's 5 whole pieces of tile for this wall, where I could have got 5 times 8 is 40. I could have got 40 tiles, but I could have saved a few tiles if I had gone with the slivers. It's just not worth it, right? But the bigger the tile, the more you want to buy. And besides, nowadays, tile is, they change the tile like underwear. You go back to the store even a few weeks later and the inventory's gone. So make sure that you have enough for not just the installation, but put some in storage somewhere, okay? Have some in case someone does something stupid. Like I got one of my questions I got in the members form the other day. Oh, the bathroom was all done, and then one of the workers dropped a hammer in the shower. I'm like, first of all, what in the hell is he doing in the shower with a hammer at the end of a tile job? Okay? Guys, if you're in the trades, buy yourself a Schluter board, all right, and cut it to the size of your shower pan and stick it in there after you put your tile down. Protect your finished surface, whatever it takes. Oh my goodness. All right. Here we go. These are done. We're just going to do the other 2 rows now. And I'm going to wait to do this wall when I do the shower because I want to finish my waterproofing around this edge. Okay? I know that we're going to have a door system here and all that, but this area here has to be overlapped and wrapped and waterproofed as well. And I don't want to just start tiling now. That's advance of the system. Okay? So I'm gonna just reconfigure myself, set up on the other side of the room. It's making me work so hard lately. This stuff is just like whipped cream. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Now that's thin set. Ah. All right. Okay, that's a messy corner. We're just going to start off right here. Get rid of this extra material. Now when I slide it up and away, at least it'll leave no crap in the grout. All right, guys, one quick trick. We're coming across a straight wall. We're hitting the edge of a drywall. It's taped in the corner, so it actually has a curve. So this point is out higher than the rest of that wall. So what we do here, take a little extra thin set on this edge, right about 2 inches from the inside here. Add just a little bit of texture, okay? Because your wall's not flat. That will help make sure you get a much better bond. Just to show you. Okay. I got good bond here, and not so much in the middle. That's because the wall is no longer flat. You know what? It's also perfectly acceptable. Oh, I know. And there'll be people in the comments who claim to be God's gift to the tiling world, complaining, that's not 100% coverage, Jeff. I'm like, you know what? The goal of this tile is to not fall off the wall. Okay? It's here for aesthetic reasons more than anything else. Here we go. Let's get it level. Let's get this gap consistent. Let's get a few tiles in so we know if we're moving this way or that way. That's it. And the truth of it is, if a tile wall is going to see a lot of activity, okay, then you should be using a thicker cement and probably go to porcelain tile. I only use ceramics whenever I have immaculate substrate or it's just there to be decorative. So, get your knickers in a knot. All right, well, there we go.